The Last of Us Part 2 is a very divisive game. Some people say it's the worst thing since the Cats movie, other people say it's the greatest thing since fried ice cream, and I am here to tell you that none of those are true. Of course, this is just my opinion, but since my opinion is far more important than everybody else's, I feel the need to express it online in order to validate my existence. Okay, so here we go. Are you ready? This game is fine. It's not amazing, it's not horrible, it's just fine. And the reason why this game is so divisive is that it does some things great, some things alright, and some things really bad. And depending on which thing you care about the most, you're gonna either love it, or hate it, or not give a shit. So let's talk about what this game gets right first. The graphics, the production value, the immersive nature of the environment, and the quality of the performance capture and acting in this game is phenomenal. This is by far one of the best looking games on the PS4, but since it's Naughty Dog that is producing this game, that's kind of an expectation at this point. Because they nailed the graphics every time, you kind of expect their games to just look amazing, and they do, and they deserve all the credit for it. You can tell all of the actors poured their heart and soul into this project. The acting in this game is top-notch, and the actors deserve all the praise in the world. Now let's talk about the gameplay. The gameplay in this game is good. It's not amazing, it's not groundbreaking, the game doesn't really come up with anything that innovative or new. It does some improvements over some of the gameplay mechanics from the first game, but overall it's very similar to the first game. And if you're someone that enjoyed the gameplay in the first game, you're gonna enjoy this game as well. There are some problems with the pacing and the flow of the gameplay. For example, this game is very long, and I have no problem with a game being this long as I don't notice it. But in this game, it's very noticeable, and that's because the pacing is a little problematic at times. The majority of the game is you trying to stealth kill a bunch of zombies or stealth kill a bunch of human enemies, and the game just alternates between these two time and time again, and it goes on for far too long before the game finally decides to break up the monotony and throw in some other enemy types that are a little bit more different, like the stalkers and the shamblers. So it drags a little bit because of the lack of variety in the choices that you can make during the game. Most of the time you only have two options, either stealth kill all the enemies or just go in guns a-blazing, and it gets old after about halfway through the game. Now let's talk about the story, which is the most controversial aspect of this game. I'm gonna give a spoiler warning right now. From now on, there's gonna be major spoilers for the ending of both The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2, so if you want to experience the story in both games for yourself, feel free to click off the video right now. Most people are gonna say that the story in this game is crap. Now, I don't know if I would go that far, but it has a lot of issues. And this is a franchise that people expect a lot from when it comes to storytelling. Because the first game told such a compelling story and such a great ending, and it did so well with developing the characters, it would be very difficult for the sequel to live up to the expectations. And it's not just that it fails to live up to the expectations, it also has a lot of problems. Now, let's talk specifics. In the first game, our main characters are Ellie and Joel, and the game was mostly about Joel's story and him getting over the biggest loss of his life and trying to move on. He loses his daughter, and as the result of that, he becomes very emotionally distant, so he can shield himself from ever getting hurt again. And then Ellie comes along, and Joel is forced to travel across the country with this teenage girl who just happens to be very charming and funny and likable. And at first, Joel is very distant because he thinks that he failed to protect his daughter and he doesn't want to go through another tragedy like that again. So he thinks if he keeps himself distant enough from Ellie that he doesn't get attached, then he's not going to go through that much pain if anything happens to her. But Ellie is so charming and so likable that she manages to get Joel to bring his guard down. And slowly but surely, we see that the two of them manage to form a very special bond. At the end of the story, Joel is forced to make a very difficult decision. At some point, we learn that Ellie is immune to the cordyceps virus. Joel takes Ellie to the Fireflies so that they can study Ellie's immunity and try to make a vaccine to save humanity. But when they get there, Joel is told that the reason why Ellie is immune is because of a mutation, and since the virus lives on the brain, they have to remove Ellie's brain so they can reverse engineer the mutation and use it to make a vaccine. So obviously, doing that would mean that Ellie would have to die. Now, the bond between Joel and Ellie is so strong that Joel chooses Ellie's life over the entire race of humanity. He failed to save his daughter once, but the second time he was willing to kill anyone and everyone just to keep his figurative daughter safe. And he decides to lie to Ellie about it, saying that the Fireflies have given up on making a vaccine for a long time. And this drives a wedge between the two, which we see the aftermath of in the sequel. The first game told a very simple yet compelling story. It's simply about Joel slowly letting his guard down and getting over his past. There are only two characters that really matter, and that's Joel and Ellie. There are other characters in there as well, but they mostly serve as a catalyst to move things forward. The game does really well telling a simple story about one person, and because it's so character-driven, there aren't really any consistencies with the characters. The characters are established very well. You get to know them, and if you put them in a certain situation, you know them well enough that you can tell what they're gonna do next. The ending of the first game puts Joel in a very difficult situation, but you can tell that he's gonna save Ellie because you know who he is based on what the game has already established with him. They have certain characteristics that stand out. For example, Joel is very paranoid and he's very cautious, especially when it comes to meeting strangers. You can tell he doesn't have a lot of moral lines left to cross. He kills a lot of people because to him, people are more of a potential problem than a potential solution. He's very pessimistic and very cynical, and he believes that that's the only way you're going to be able to survive in this post-apocalyptic world. Ellie is very funny, and she's witty, and she steals things when other people aren't looking. But she is very smart as well, and she's kind of a nerd too. Now, moving on to The Last of Us Part 2, we see the aftermath. And the problem is some of the characteristics that the first game had already established for the characters are completely forgotten about. Now, let me explain. In this game, we are introduced to Abby, who is by far the most controversial thing about this game. And the reason why is because sometime around the beginning of the game, she kills Joel with a golf club. And that whole scene is very divisive, and for a good reason too. The game forces you to play as Abby, and you want to go to some city and you get stuck in a very bad situation with a large horde of zombies coming after you. And right as you're about to die, Joel and Tommy come and save you. Then Abby takes Joel and Tommy to her camp, and when Joel and Tommy introduce themselves to the other people, Abby shoots Joel in the knee and incapacitates him. The problem with this whole segment is that Joel is established to be very paranoid and cautious and wary of strangers. That was something that we knew about Joel from the first game, but he willingly walks into Abby's camp without being worried about their intentions at all. Now, the counter argument for this is that the people of Jackson over the years have tried to become more welcoming towards strangers, and they are actively trying to help people more. And some people could say that because of that and the fact that Joel has grown softer because of his love for Ellie, that it would make sense for him to want to help strangers more. But the problem with that counter argument is that Joel has killed a lot of people. He would have to know at one point or another that someone whose child, wife, or father he may have killed is going to be looking for him for some sort of payback. He would have to know that. That would have to be somewhere in the back of his mind. So he wouldn't willingly walk into a stranger's camp and try to make friends with them. That's just not him. At this point, it's not just that Joel is acting out of character and emotionally soft, but he's being really dumb too. And the way Abby and Joel meet is by sheer coincidence. And that also doesn't make much sense. Abby, who's been looking for Joel for years, just happens to run into him in the middle of dipshit nowhere. So Abby then tortures and kills Joel in front of Ellie after he saved Abby's life, by the way, and then Abby does something retarded. She lets both Ellie and Tommy live after she killed Joel in front of them. And she didn't even tell them why she was doing it so that maybe they understand. No, she just lets them live. And of course Ellie and Tommy try to go after Abby to get revenge, and of course they kill Abby's friends trying to get to her, and then Abby has the audacity to act surprised when she finds her friends dead. It's like nobody in this story can think straight. Joel acted like an idiot getting caught, Ellie acted like an idiot getting caught, Abby acted like an idiot letting Ellie and Tommy go, and then she acted like an idiot again letting Ellie go for a second time after Ellie killed all her friends and her dog. So you mean to tell me that Abby kills Joel because he killed her father, even though Joel saved her life, but she's kind enough to not kill Ellie twice, even though Ellie killed all her friends, one of whom was pregnant, by the way. The story is very inconsistent with the characters and the moral lines they're willing to cross. Another example is Ellie kills a bunch of people in cold blood trying to get to Abby, but when she gets to her towards the end of the story, she decides not to kill her and let her go. So she has no problem killing Abby's friends, but when it comes to killing the person who hurt her the most, she's not willing to cross that moral line. Another big problem I have with this story is that you play half of the game as Abby after she kills Joel. So the game makes you play as the person you probably hate for half the game. And the game does a lot to try and make you see her point of view, which I thought was a very good move. But at that point, I thought of Abby as the villain of the story, and I thought it would be interesting to play as the villain and to maybe see why they do the things they do. I thought this game was treating Abby kind of like how Marvel treated Thanos in Avengers Infinity War, where they created a villain who's clearly evil, but they're not evil just because. They're trying to accomplish something, and they make you kind of see where they're coming from so that you can understand them better and maybe even sympathize with them. And that's what I thought they were doing with Abby. But the problem is, in order to do that, you have to play as her for a brief period of time just so you still think of her as a villain. But no, you keep playing as her, and you keep playing as her, and you keep on playing as her for half the game. You play as her so much so that she doesn't feel like a villain anymore. She feels like a main character, and it doesn't help that the game just tries to actively make you sympathize with her. They try way too hard, and it screams desperation. The problem with Abby is that she's not evil enough to be a villain. She doesn't embrace her dark side, but she's also not interesting enough to be a main character. She has the likability and the development of a bland and boring background character, but she has the screen time of a main protagonist. So a lot of the scenes with her come off as uninteresting and boring. I know what the writers are trying to do. They're trying to tell a story about a vicious revenge cycle and perspective and empathy. They're trying to say that if you were in Abby's shoes, you would have done the same thing. If you were in Ellie's shoes, you would have done what she did too. But had they tried to put themselves in each other's shoes, the revenge cycle would have stopped much earlier and a lot of people's deaths could have been avoided. And that's a nice template to go by, but the execution is poor and the story reeks of writers' arrogance. They're trying to make something work that's just not gonna work. They wanted to shock people and go the Walking Dead route, where to get the attention of the audience, you just kill a very important character, but it's cheap. It's not done well. You can tell the only reason why this scene is here is because they wanted to shock people. If they had this happen towards the end of the game where we would have already played as Abby for a long time, it would have been better that way, because then it would seem like Joel has made mistakes and he has killed a lot of people, and that was eventually going to catch up to him. And by then, if the writers made Abby more likable, we would probably understand. But it's hard to watch your favorite character die by the hands of a new character, and then the game tries to shove this new character down your throat when all you want is to see her dead. It's just writers' arrogance to think that they could make something like this work. There are other issues as well. The other characters are all boring and bland. Dina, Jesse, Lev, Yara, Owen, and Mel are all so boring I can hardly remember anything about them. When all you can remember of these characters are pregnant woman, boyfriend, girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, wants to be a boy, and broken arm, then the story has not done enough with them to make them interesting, which I would have been fine with, but they get a lot of screen time, so every scene with them is just terrible. Dina and Ellie have no chemistry whatsoever, and the same could be said about Owen and Abby, so their scenes together are terrible as well. Just look at the flashback scenes with Joel and Ellie. You're not even doing anything in those segments, you're just kind of walking around and talking, but they're by far some of the best parts of the game, because these two characters have something the other characters lack, and that's charisma. They're funny, they play off of each other very well. The audience actually gives a shit about them. Nobody wants to play as the angry, bitter bitch with a history of anabolic steroids addiction. The audience is not going to automatically like her no matter how many times she pets her dog, or how many times she saves Lev and Yara, or how many times she fucks Owen. Nobody gives a shit. People wanted to see more of Joel and Ellie with some fun gameplay sprinkled in between. And as a writer who is trying to sell a story, you have to know what the audience wants. What is the franchise known for? What did people like about the first game? The answer is Joel and Ellie, and it's arrogant for them to think that just because they told a great story once, that anything they put out after that was going to be accepted by the majority of the people. This story is pretentious, and it doesn't work, and just because it has the Last of Us title on it, doesn't mean people are going to like it. If you're watching a movie or a TV show and at any point in time, you stop and think about the writer's agenda and what they're trying to do, that means there's a problem with the story. When you're watching a movie, you should be so immersed that you don't even acknowledge or think about the writer's existence. That's when you know you have a really good story. But unfortunately in this game, there were a lot of times where I just stopped and I was like, I see what you're doing and it's not gonna work. For example, when you play as Ellie, they force you to kill Abby's dog, and it's one of those moments where you can tell that they're just trying to make Abby seem more innocent, and you can see the desperation in it. And that's why this story doesn't really work. So there you go, those are my thoughts on The Last of Us Part 2. Is it a horrible game? No, it's not. The graphics are amazing, the gameplay is good, and at times very enjoyable, but this story suffers a lot. You don't have to agree with me, you don't have to agree with anyone. Just play the game and form your own opinion about it. That is gonna do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.